That back. So welcome to the stream. Today we are going to talk about weekly seasonal anime episode, and we're gonna make a tier list about it from the date 17 August to 23rd August. So the first episode that we're gonna talk about is Monster Girl Doctor. So first of all, for that episode, Monster Girl Doctor actually focused about Ilya and the reason she's unable to fly, and it is about her self-confidence issue, and and that she wants to fly. She wants to always fly and doesn't want to stay at her current village because she doesn't fit in. That episode as a whole is quite interesting by Monster Girl Doctor standard, which is not that high, but it is less ecchi than usual, so I'll give them that. Overall, I would put Monster Girl Doctor on C plus. On C. Definitely better than before this, but not exactly crazy. And now we look at Fruit Basket. Fruit Basket actually have a really interesting episode last week, right? The focus on that episode is mainly on Yuki and Kakeru. Both of them talk about their families and how it affects them growing up. I think in that way, Yuki actually connects better with Kakeru. So I think that story as a whole is quite endearing to me. But since I'm not a big fan of Kakeru as a character, I'm not sure about it myself. But Kakeru, that episode is Kakeru's action in that episode is really interesting because he helped Yuki realize that both of them just need to accept their previous life, accept that their parents are shitty, and try to live with it. Oh, interesting part about that episode is that about that play is because Kyo, in the upcoming festival, Kyo is gonna be the prince, and Toru is gonna be the evil stepsister in Cinderella. So I'm looking forward to that. But last episode as a whole, I would put at B. It's not amazing, but it's not bad either. I'm interested in what's gonna happen between Yuki and Machi, because I feel like Yuki and Machi have some interesting dynamic coming up. Machi as a character is interesting because he haven't moved on like she haven't moved on like Kakeru did. Now we move on to our third anime of last week, that is The God of High School. The God of High School, as per usual, have that pacing problem, but last episode was amazing. At least in my opinion, it was amazing because that was the first fight for that God of High School national tournament, right? So Jin failed miserably was funny. However, the fight, what makes last episode great was because there's not much story, but there's a lot of fight in it, right? The first fight was between Jin's team and I don't remember which district was that. That was pretty cool, but the best fight is between Commissioner Q and with that cultist, right? Those fights were amazing because there's new chariot you can see. Fight scene wise, that episode was amazing. Story wise, it is passable, I guess, but story was never the main strength of God of High School. It is fight scene. So by enjoyment, I would definitely put it at A. Definitely enjoyed that episode more than I thought I would. Plus, the backstory for Jin's opponent was actually quite heartwarming. About the old guy just want to continue study even though he failed a lot of time. That was a good I guess that was quite a heartwarming story that get that get some points from me. And now Hukago Tebunishi. Hokago Tebunishi. Last episode was about they went on a rock fishing, right? I love that episode because we got some more focus on Ono Senpai. And Ono Senpai, that whole episode was hilarious because she just wanted to take care of Hina so that Hina won't fall into the water, into the sea like she did when she was little. So Ono Senpai takes the highlight. It was fun. It was typical Hokago Tebunishi. But I'm not crazy on the second part of the story. I mean, it's kind of nice to see to see Natsume family, but it was okay. It wasn't bad. But still, Hokago Tebunishi is still a good anime by it. What I meant was that episode was still good by Hokago Tebunishi standard. So I'll put it an A because the first half of the episode was really enjoyable. The study part was okay. Still cute, but just okay. Now we move on to our fourth anime from last week on Thursday. That is Decadence. Oh boy, Decadence was amazing this episode. Amazing is calling it amazing is it's not accurate, but I can't find another word to explain it, right? So what happened last episode was that the game continued, but this time those Gadol attack the Decadence itself and create a hole in the tank. So Natsume and her gang defeat the Gadol, and now they have a freaking big hole there, which needs to be patched up. And this is where Natsume shines, right? She doesn't want to give up, and she just went everywhere and asked for help. And then I love that scene where she confronted Faye, because Faye, I think since episode 1 we see that Faye doesn't like that Natsume is trying so hard, because she just wants to have a chill life with Natsume, but Natsume on the other hand wants to grow as a person, right? So that's the conflict that I've been waiting for, actually. Faye who doesn't want to grow, and Natsume who wants to grow and needs to grow stronger. So that dialogue was amazing, literally, because we kind of see both we kind of see the current situation from both their point of view. That was amazing. And then Faye eventually asked her team to help Natsume, which is kind of nice. And then a much better scene comes after that, is when Kaburagi meets Natsume technically for the first time after his original avatar died. So at first it was cute because Natsume doesn't really know that that gear was actually Kaburagi. I think she got the hint that was Kaburagi, but she didn't know. She don't know for sure. And then that whole scene outside of Decadence where we actually saw Natsume. Natsume is a very strong character, but even then, after they couldn't find Kaburagi, we saw Natsume actually breaking down because of the pressure. She knew she can't give up right now. She just have to push herself, right? Because if she doesn't push herself, she's afraid that she'll lose herself. Even though that Kaburagi isn't there to push her, she realized that she needs to push herself. And then the moment where we saw Kaburagi just say, "I'm gonna freaking burn the whole world," which is funny and actually kind of hyped me for the next episode. So all in all, that episode was amazing. I would give it an S tier. Amazing episode, a lot of emotional dialogue, not a lot of action, but Natsume have two amazing moments there, and Kaburagi too. Now we move on to ReZero. Okay, now Subaru is already entered the death loop, right? So in this episode, first he met Elsa again. Continuing from previous episode, he met Elsa, and then Biko technically save him, and then we learn about Biko's betrayal, how she have a ghost spell of her own, and then there's the whole scene with that scene with Biko is actually interesting because while Biko said that she helped Subaru she talked with Subaru before this because that ghost spell asks her to do that. But I think deep down Biko knows that she actually enjoyed her time with Subaru. Maybe she didn't talk to Subaru at first. Maybe she talked to Subaru at first because of ghost spell, but I think she gets comfortable with him, and that's why she's kind of hurt when Subaru state that everything she does is based on that gospel. So that I want to see how I want to see why and how would Subaru conduct himself next time he meets Biko, right? So that's interesting. And then that's the whole thing where Subaru is kidnapped by Garfield. Well, that's Garfield in that scene is gonna play a big role, I think, just because he's the one that changed each loop. Right, this is Subaru's third loop, and each time Garfield acts differently. And this time he kidnapped Subaru because Subaru's have a strong witch scent compared to previous time. So this time he actually took action against Subaru. So, and then Subaru was kidnapped, and then we have that Otto scene where Otto came and saved him, which is not gonna lie, that was a heartwarming scene. Because at this point you need to realize that Subaru doesn't really have anyone that he can trust or he can rely. Previously, if things fucked up, he have Ram to help him. He have Emilia to help him. Now Ram is in a coma. Emilia is struggling with her past to get through that trial. Ram is working with Roswell, who's shady. Roswell is shady as heck. And then Garfield is shady. Frederica is shady. The village, the whole sanctuary is shady. So and Biko betrayed him. Biko is one of the people that he trusts the most, right? And Biko betrayed him, so he doesn't have anyone to rely on. Otto at that time, came in and just saved him out of pure goodness of his heart. That he thought, he said that his Subaru friend, and I think Subaru appreciates that at that point. So that whole scene was pretty amazing and heartwarming, really. So I would put it at S, but not as high as Decadence. Decadence is on another level. Now, Uzaki Chan. So this episode, at first we start with, and so Uzaki Chan, that cat cafe scene where Uzaki tortures Sakura at that cafe. That was hilarious. And the best part of that episode is when Uzaki turned 20 and they went drinking. Went to the pub together to celebrate. That was fun. Uzaki getting pretty drunk. And then Uzaki annoyingness just levels up when she's drunk. Hangover. Pretty good stuff from Uzaki. Funny as usual. Cute as usual. There's nothing much to say. Should it put B? Because I truly enjoyed it, but it's not. I would put it at A. A solid Uzaki episode. Funny, cute, lovable. So, okay, A is a solid place. Peter Grill, D. Nothing to say. It's Peter Grill, NTR stuff. A bit hilarious, but still NTR. Not a big fan of that. And then Rent a Girlfriend. This is gonna be interesting. Probably my favorite episode of Rent a Girlfriend until today. My gripe with Rent a Girlfriend before this is that Kazuya as a character is really pathetic. Calling him pathetic is giving him too much credit, right? He's spineless, he's foolish, he's a piece of shit, he lies a lot. So at least in this episode we don't see that side of him. And I think that's what makes this episode at least better. And then there's Ruka. Ruka introduction changes everything. Ruka as a character is fun. She's competitive. She's funny. She's cute. She's perfect. She's literally perfect. And her introduction was great. Her interaction with Chizuru was amazing. I had fun watching the three of them talk it out. Because that whole episode was basically the three of them, Chizuru, Kazuya, and Ruka, just talk about how to settle this conflict that they have. But it was hilarious purely because Ruka was there. So this episode was amazing. And then there's that ED where we get to see Ruka's backstory, why she fell in love with Kazuya. That was amazing. That song was amazing. And that whole scene was amazing because I love backstory, but making it into an ED, shortening it, but making it meaningful enough, that's an efficient way to do a backstory. So easily S. I would put it higher than ReZero. Yeah, but not as high. Decadence is crazy this week's. And Fire. Now we move on to Fire Force. I don't know. So in this week's Fire Force, they talk about a lot of the creator of Tabernacle, and then Shinra have an Adola link with her. She basically asks him to protect the forest. Then we got some backstory about how the life there before the Oasis form, and then we see the White Clad Infernals. They have a demon. Nothing interesting, to be honest. The action scene was okay. I would give it. I want to give it B, but that would be degrading to Fruit Basket because Fruit Basket is definitely more enjoyable than Fire Force. Giving it C is pretty harsh. I'm giving it a C. Not the best of episode, really. I don't know why I watch Fire Force these days. It's not that interesting. Pretty okay, but not that great. Because the thing with Fire Force, I've mentioned this before. As an action scene, before this, Fire Force is the flashy thing, the flashy anime that season, right? But this season, the animation quality drops a bit. It's not as amazing as the first season. And then there's God of High School, who have the same problem as Fire Force, where the story is kind of shit, but the action is amazing, right? So in terms of hype level, I'm more hyped for the God of High School. So the God of High School kind of take the spot where usually Fire Force is. That is the spot for anime that are trash story wise but have action scene, amazing action scenes. And Fire Force is losing that spot, sadly enough. Now, Misfit of Demon Academy. So this week's episode is about the Magic Sword tournament. That fight was okay. And then they were trapped by Helios. I'm not sure what his name is. In a new dimension, then they fight Helios in that dimension. That moment between Lee and his mom was great. I love that. But I guess it's a pretty okay episode. I enjoyed it a bit. No romance, so that's great. I would put it at B. Solid B. Finally, SAO. Right? So this week's Kirito last week's episode, Kirito has woke up, and now he's fighting POH. And when Kirito almost lose, Power of Friendship came out. Somehow Yujio literally came into the battlefield and helped Kirito for some reason. I say literally because unlike with with Yuki, nobody besides Asuna can see Yuki. But in Yujio's case, I don't remember. Is it TS? TS also see Yujio when he came. So he literally came back. So that doesn't make sense. The problem with SAO is that this episode is cool, have a lot of good moments, but it doesn't make sense, right? Like for some reason, after Kirito for some reason have the power to log out those players from China, Korea, and America. For some reason, he can help them log out, which doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. And for some reason, POH can absorb their life for the logged out player life force, but somehow Kirito can. Doesn't make sense again. There's a lot of things that doesn't make sense this episode, right? Which kind of ruins my enjoyment, but at least that it is enjoyable to some degree. It is not suffering, so that's one thing I love about it. And then there's that lovely scene between Asuna and Kirito where they hug. I'm glad that they didn't kiss at that scene, because I think at that point kissing shows affection, shows love, right? But by hugging and then head bumping, it represents a more deeply rooted love, a more familial-ish love. You feel by just hugging closely, you kind of feel that they are a very close characters instead of just kissing. Kissing can sometimes be cheap. So, and then the setup for next episode is kind of interesting. They have 10 minutes to fight Miller. So the next fight is gonna be between Miller versus Asuna. Miller versus Asuna, Kirito, and Alice. I'm not sure whether Sinon will join or not. I don't think she will because her legs have been cut off. So, as a whole, a lot of good moments, but a lot of things that doesn't make sense. Oh, when POH was turned into a tree, that doesn't make sense at all. Suddenly Kirito have that kind of power. That doesn't make sense. I would put it at A lower A, probably a bit higher than Uzaki. That scene doesn't make sense because I think the only reason why that author gave Kirito that power was because he wrote himself into corner, because it has been established by the writer that even if POH was killed there, he can just log in with a new account, right? So the author need to make a way for POH to prevent POH from logging in, and I think the writer just wrote some bullshit and just go on with it. It doesn't make sense, but I guess that's the author's problem. A lot of things doesn't make sense in SAO this season, so I think A is suitable. It's okay for them. So that's it for this week's tier list. Thank you.